Hello everyone. Welcome to a new episode of English Level Up. This time, we're going to learn how to argue effectively. Let's get started. In life, we all have disagreements from time to time. These might be with your partner, your boss, your parents, or even a close friend. When situations like this happen, it's important not to let a simple difference of opinion turn into a heated argument. Of course, this is often easier said than done. The first thing I would suggest is that the way you start a conversation really matters. For example, imagine you live with your partner and you're feeling annoyed because you think you do most of the housework. If you say, "Look, you're not doing your share of the housework," you're starting the conversation in a negative way, and it will quickly become an argument. A more constructive way would be to say something like, "I think we should take another look at how we divide up the housework. Maybe we can find a better way to do it." My second piece of advice is quite simple. If you are in the wrong, just admit it. This is one of the easiest ways to avoid an argument. Apologize and say, "Sorry, it was my fault." Whether it's to your roommate, your parents, or your partner, and then move on. People usually have much more respect for you when you do this. Another useful tip is, don't exaggerate. Avoid saying things like, "You always forget our wedding anniversary," when it may have only happened once, or "You never remember to turn off the lights." Statements like these make the other person feel defensive, especially when they know it isn't true. If you follow these suggestions, you can often avoid arguments altogether. However, if an argument does happen, it's important to keep things under control, and there are ways to manage that. The most important thing is not to raise your voice. If you raise your voice, the other person will probably lose their temper as well. If you notice that you're getting louder, pause for a moment and take a deep breath. You could say, "I didn't mean to shout. I don't want to argue, but this is important to me." And then continue calmly. When you speak in a calm and a quiet way, the other person is more likely to listen and think about your point. It's also essential to stick to the point. Try to stay focused on the topic you're discussing. Don't bring up old arguments or introduce other issues. Focus on solving the current problem and leave other matters for another time. For instance, if you're discussing housework, don't suddenly add, "And another thing, I was really disappointed with my birthday present." Finally, if needed, call timeout. Just like in a sporting event, if you feel the argument is getting out of control, you can say, "Let's talk about this tomorrow," when we've both calmed down. Then you can continue the discussion the next day when both of you are feeling less tense and angry. This way, there is a better chance of reaching an agreement. You may also find that the problem seems easier after a good night's sleep. One last point that I think is very important. Some people believe that arguing is always a bad thing, but that's not true. Conflict is a normal part of life, and learning how to deal with it is essential in any relationship. Whether it's roommates, a married couple, or close friends, if you don't learn to argue properly, you won't be ready to handle serious problems together when they arise. Think of smaller arguments as training sessions. Learn to argue in a clean and fair way, and this will help your relationships become stronger and last longer. Alright everyone, that's the end of this episode. I hope it was helpful for you. See you next time, and bye for now.